automatic name Nancy. Hi, everybody. When I speak at workshops and stuff, I like to go to the literature because it keeps me centered better than being self-centered. So I looked in the Just for Today, and September 7th is resentment and forgiveness. Where there's been wrong, the program teaches us the spirit of forgiveness. Basic text, page 12. In NA, we begin to interact with the world around us. We no longer live in isolation. But freedom from isolation has its price. The more we interact with people, the more often we'll find someone stepping on our toes. And such are the circumstances in which resentments are often born. Resentments, justified or not, are dangerous to our ongoing recovery. The longer we harbor resentments, the more bitter they become, eventually poisoning us. To stay clean, we must find the capacity to let go of our resentments, the capacity to forgive. We first develop this capacity in working steps 8 and 9, and we keep it alive by regularly taking the 10th step. Sometimes when we are unwilling to forgive, it helps to remember that we, too, may someday require another person's forgiveness. Haven't we all at one time or another done something that we deeply regretted? And aren't we healed in some measure when others accept our sincere amends? An attitude of forgiveness is a little easier to develop when we remember that we all are doing the very best we can, and someday we too will need forgiveness. Just for today, I will let go of my resentments. Today, if I am wronged, I will practice forgiveness, knowing that I need forgiveness myself. And forgiveness was a very difficult spiritual principle for me to conceive and to practice and to believe in when I first got here. When I first got here, I was a survivor of sexual abuse from several members in my family, and my mom was physically abusive, and I got here and I didn't like anybody, much less myself. It wasn't anything against anybody personally. I just didn't want anybody in my space. I didn't want anybody to try to help me because I had to do this on my own. I was taught, do everything on your own and don't rely on people. When it came time to write my 4-step and start writing down the incidences in my life that I had resentments against and the people that I had resentments against, my mom and dad were first on the list, and to no avail, I was on that list too, because I resented myself because I never took care of saying no or telling somebody or making it stop. The abuse had continued for a long time in my family. It was one of the ways that I got my drugs. My dad started molesting me when I was 3 years old. He would get me drunk. So my using has been 31 years. I picked up on my own when I was 8, and that's what I knew. I knew that using took me to a place that I didn't have to worry about anything or anyone. I was oblivion to what was going on around me. And then it quit working. And I, like it says, living with or without drugs, we do recover when at the end of the road. Being willing to share this stuff in front of a room full of, I don't know very many people here. If you would have asked me to do this 16 years ago, I would have said there's no way because it's a secret and I'm not telling anybody about this. I was told that if I told anybody that one, my mom would beat me, two, that there were family members that I know had committed at least one murder and was willing to kill me. And my uncle said he would gut me like a fish, which at 5 I knew was dead. So I had these secrets, and I had this anger and rage when I got here. We were sitting around the campfire this morning talking about when we first got here and the person that I was when I got here. And, you know, I can kind of laugh at it now, but I find that this program really does work because I'm not that person anymore. And I think a lot of it, as I was thinking this morning and reading through some literature and stuff, and it's like, you know, it's because I've been able to forgive my parents. It was not that I made this conscious decision and said, okay, my parents are off the hook. Or that they should just be forgiven because that's what the program teaches me. I struggled against this. It took me about 7 years in recovery to get to a point where I can honestly tell you that both my parents died when I was in active addiction. And I know today that if for some way that my parents could be a part of my life, I would be okay with that today. And that's because of this program, and it's because of the willingness to listen to other people that had to go through what I went through. Hearing someone tell me the forgiveness isn't so much for them as it is for yourself, you know, and I'm working still today on forgiving myself on things. I still have a very addictive behavior, which I'll have till the day I die. I don't believe there's any cure for being an addict. But I do things to myself, and I'm trying to be on this journey to find out why. And I forgive myself for a lot of things. There's a lot of things that I've done in my past I'm not proud of, and working the steps have helped me not to be ashamed of them. And but there's still some things that I'm not sure of what they are. I know that it's there because my gut tells me that they're there. Now I got to just get my gut, my heart, and my head together on this so that I can do the forgiveness that needs to be done. It was really, really hard to be able to. I was 18 months clean when the memories of my dad came back. And I remember thinking, I got clean for this? Because I was Daddy's little girl. I went everywhere with him. He was an alcoholic. We went to the bars all the time. He taught me how to be in a bar, how to act. He saved me from getting beat by my mom because he would take me places. And that was very confusing when I started working on my stuff, is how come I would rather go with my father, who was sexually abusing me, and not be with my mother where I was getting beat? Because today, to go through that pain of the sexual abuse, I would rather have an ass whooping. I would gladly take an ass whooping before going through the pain and the blocking and the stuff coming back and, you know, thinking that you're going crazy because you're dreaming weird shit, and the anger and the hate that I had for my parents, and yet the love that I had for them was so confusing. How can you love somebody and hate them so much at the same time? And everybody kept saying, Nancy, you've got to forgive them. You've got to come to some understanding of maybe they gave you the best they had to give. And I had to start looking at a little bit of family history. My family is full of addicts. And maybe, just maybe, they did give me the best that they had to give. I believe today that my parents loved me. I believe that they gave me the best that they could give. And I believe that they had abuse in their family that they didn't talk about and didn't have any ways or means. Because back in the 60s and 70s, things were different. I'm kind of dating myself now. I'm 50 and I'm damn proud of it. It was a hard year to get 50 years old, but I'm proud to be 50. You know, most of us weren't supposed to make it past our 20s. you know. But with this program of recovery comes the responsibility, I believe, for myself, that I have to give it my best shot, my willingness, my best honesty, my best open-mindedness to do the spiritual principles of this program. And there was no way I could do a 9-step if I didn't forgive my parents. I talk a lot about my parents because they were the hardest ones on my list. You know, and someone said to me once, "Do you believe that your higher power has forgiven you?" And I didn't have to think too long, and I said, "Yeah, I think that he has." Then who are you not to forgive yourself? You know, and that was like, wow. I need to remember that more on a daily basis. I still remember some of the things that I did to my parents because I had to write about that in my 4-step too, about what my part in stuff was. I was not just a victim all those years. I did things that, you know, like my mom dying of cancer and I was stealing her pain medication. You know, I know today that I'm not that daughter that would do that today. If somebody in my life is dying of cancer and needs pain medication, I believe with staying connected to Narcotics Anonymous, going to meetings and talking to my sponsor and using my network, I could deal with that and not steal it and use it for my own and justify she didn't like it and I liked the hell out of it, and why waste some good shit, you know? So I had to look at those things. I had to look at some of the lies that I told and why I told them, because it was easier to tell a lie than it was to tell the truth. I mean, bottom line, that was it. It was just easier to tell a lie. To live in this fantasy world that I, my family, and the drugs had created was real easy. And then the using stopped working and I had to come into what reality was. And somewhere in the basic text it says we must learn to accept what reality is. And it's like, man, I'm not a real good quoter of that's why I read. I don't quote real well. Somewhere in there it says something about we must accept our reality. And my reality was, when I got here, I was a broken person. And today, 16 years later, I'm still got bumps and bruises, but I'm not that broken piece of shit, should have never been born, you know, type of person. You'll never amount to anything. I don't have to believe what I was taught. I can learn new things today. I was taught wrong as a child about many things. Another person in my life that was hard to forgive, and the only way that I can make amends to this person is my brother. Haven't seen for 15 years. I walked away from my family when I was about 6 to 9 months clean. It was either stay clean or die. I knew at 6 months it was either stay clean or go back to my family and die. And their response to me being in recovery is, "What the hell? You're no different than we are." And it was like, exactly, I'm no different than you. But I'm learning that there's something different out there that I can do. I don't have to rely on a substance to deal with life today. But my brother is somebody I haven't seen, and I got a Christmas card from him this year. And he wanted to get together, and life on life's terms has been majorly happening in our life. And I called and left a message because I knew they both worked, so I timed it perfectly, that, you know, I would write a letter and make some explanation, because I just disappeared. I didn't really explain a whole lot. And the best amends that I can make right now is just staying clean. I'm concerned that if I try to talk to him, that I'll end up doing something that I'll have to make amends for. And I will make my amends. I'm not saying that I won't, but sometimes thinking it through and thinking, oh, if I act out on this character defect, I'm going to have to own amends, sometimes will stop me from acting on that character defect. And I've talked with my sponsor, and my sponsor says anything that stops you from acting on a character defect is okay, as long as you're willing, when needed, to make that amends. It's kind of hard because my husband's here right now, and one of the things that I'm working on forgiving somebody else for is his sister died 2 months ago, and he has a brother that's 57 years old with mental illness, and I'm working on forgiving her for dying. And she didn't choose to die. She didn't commit suicide. She had a bad heart, a lot of complications. She passed away in the hospital. But it's like, damn it. Life as I know it will never be the same. And I'm angry. I'm upset that I'm angry about that. I just have a lot of feelings about that. But I think forgiveness, she didn't choose to die. She didn't say, well, I'm going to screw Nancy's life up. You know, that's what my sponsor used to say. Nancy, you walk around like your God wakes up every morning and says, how can I mess Nancy's life up today? You know, you're going on a picnic, it's going to rain. You know, you're going to go skiing, the snow's going to melt. You know, and she says, you blame everything on God. And, you know, I don't know if this is appropriate or not. It might not be appropriate. So it's kind of like, you know, God, why does this always have to happen to me? Because when the surgery first started back in March, we didn't know if we'd be back to be able to go to our area's convention. And I was convention chair this year. God dang it. You know, I work all year long, and I'm going to miss the convention. And it was our 20th convention, so it was a little bit more important to me. And when we got down there and the first day of her surgery, they said that she could be 60 days in Little Rock, Arkansas, or 30 days in Little Rock, Arkansas. And then a couple of months recuperating after that. And it's like, I can't do this, God. And then we make the decision to not turn off the ventilator, but to stop the medicines that they were using to keep her blood pressure and stuff up, and she passed away shortly after that. And then to feel that guilt, because it's like, well, I didn't mean it to end this way. You know, God, I wanted it. My plan was for her to hurry up and get better and my life to go on. And then it was like, shit, now I got this 57-year-old, 6-year-old that I'm going to have to take places and do things for. And you know, they tell me that God won't give me any more than I can handle. Well, this one's a hard one to forgive. But I'm doing the next right thing. I don't want to do this, but I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I think if I continue to stay in the mindset that if I'm willing to do the next right thing for the next right reason, everything's going to work out. And chances are I won't need to make those amends. Chances are I won't have to be looking for forgiveness. And chances are I won't have to be having to forgive somebody else. So I'm very grateful for this program. It's saved my life. This last 2 months have been hell, but there's been gifts out of it. My brother-in-law's in a healthier place now than he was. I truly believe he appreciates what we do for him. And that's all you need, is just a smile sometimes, you know, and to know that the world is going to be okay. The world is going to be okay just for today. And that's my biggest problem, is staying in just for today. Because I worry about, you know, what if I can't make it to the convention? Well, I made it to the convention, you know, and the convention was good. We went back to Arkansas. We've spent a lot of time in Arkansas, and I'm grateful to live in Illinois. Um, it's just too hot down there. I'm used to northern Illinois weather. It's just too hot in Arkansas. One day it's 93 and the next day it's 53. What the hell is that? You know, I'm not used to like 40-degree change in weather here. It's hard. But if there's somebody in your life that you need to forgive them for you, if for no other reason, because it is so freeing. For a person that came from such abuse and to be able to be married and have a husband and have the full life that we have together is truly a miracle. We met when I was 7 years clean, just in the process of working on all this, getting to a point where, you know what, my past is my past. It doesn't make me who I am today. It has made me who I am today. It's made me a stronger person. But I'm not that piece of shit, you're no good for anything, you're never going to amount to anything kid that was being raised up. I don't have to listen to those things in my head anymore that are negative. I need to have you people around me and tell me that you're going to be okay, Nancy. And that's what I need sometimes, is just you're going to be okay. So with that, I'll pass, and thank you.
Thanks, Nancy.
Our second speaker is David from Cincinnati.
My name's David. I'm an addict. Hi, David. I had this whole spiel worked out about isolation, and then she read that Just for Day thing and just took the rug right out of everything I was going to say. So hopefully this will be a lot shorter than it was going to be. I grew up in a family myself, like most of us, that's pretty tweaked, and I was the youngest. And I knew my mom was dying from this, and nobody believed me. And she was fucking wonderful and so horrible. And it was a nightmare. And it was half my family were dying from this. It's wiped out half my family. And they were the cool, funny ones. And the other half of the family were assholes that were mean to the cool, funny ones. Then I got clean from a dysfunctional fellowship, which was very ordinary, just like our ordinary families. I got clean at a time when it was all about rubbing the puppy's nose to do. The literature didn't have a bunch of shit slip in there about believing in each other. It was there the whole time, but it was about there wasn't a lot of what I heard. Maybe it was said, but I didn't hear much about forgiveness when I got clean. I heard shit about acceptance, but it was kind of we all been through some heavy duty shit. Don't be a fucking self-pitying crybaby. Deal with it. It was all this tough stuff. Acceptance was talked about. I heard a lot about it. It was really something that you should already know how to fucking do and just do it. As soon as if you weren't doing it, you were struggling over it, then you should feel bad about it. For me, forgiveness and acceptance, both of them, are an awful lot like faith. There's something I thought I should have, and I felt guilty that I didn't. I hope you weren't expecting something nice. For me, it was, and still is, both of those are things that I got to work. Faith, acceptance, forgiveness, all of those things that come to me and then they don't stay with me without more hard fucking work. You know, I wish that I was one of those burning bush people that like woke up spiritually like that. You know, recovery came to me as a warm glow. I wake up real slow, and other days I'm a whole lot less awake than others and grumpy. And old resentments come back for me. Stuff that I thought I worked through is waiting for me when I get my head up my ass and I don't feel like calling anybody. So for me, another way that forgiveness is like faith is that I had to look a lot less at what to have faith in and a whole lot more in my need for faith. That's why that whole bit about isolation is like pretty a big deal. Ignore the fact that they grew up, one during the Depression, the other one in a foreign country with bombs falling, and like I expect them to know what the fuck to do. I have such a long list of shit that I've survived, and I'm like. It's getting to the point now where I hear horrid shit and I'm like, it is true that we've all been through some crazy shit, like for me, I remember alcohol, like from the get-go. It was something that was always on the table. I don't know when it started. I do know that supposedly we were given little drops of it on sugar cubes when we were babies. I remember it always being around in the house and me sneaking it. And I remember my mom, staying up after everybody else went to bed. And I remember, stealing all the pills. And this was still elementary school, when I knew what, these different pills did from personal experience with them. I remember walking through the flowers that would grow in the yard on my mom's feet. Barely, but I remember that shit. I remember my mom trying to make every day special and then watching her kill herself. I can remember my mom trying desperately to make every day special and driving us crazy then, as things got weird. Before I ever got clean, I survived so many things. I had to grow up. I took responsibility for things that were making tuna fish casserole and giving mom credit for it, and she so much that she actually believed she made it. Because gotta help keep the secret. You gotta make sure everything goes smooth, Since I've been clean, I have been sexually assaulted by somebody who was wearing, some strange dude that had a black multiple year key tag on. A friend of mine got chopped up by a mass murderer after being tortured for hours. These are things that rattle off the tongue easy because they actually weren't the worst things. Those are the things that sound horrific. My mom died after finding out that my dad had terminal cancer. So, it's not like one of them at least got peace from the other one first. She died, then, knowing that my dad was going to die, and he died, grieving her. I saw my dad cry 4 times in my life before that. And I started caregiving for him, and he would tip his head back to cry. The noise that would come out of his throat was insanely, the biggest pain of a soul. And I had a brother who lived closer than me, who promised to help caregive along with me, 50-50. That, and out of the last 4 months, 5, 6, I don't know, when my dad was alive and I was caregiving, was there for 3 hours and never brought his kids. The one thing that my dad, had left to live for, Then when I finally said I can't take it anymore, I just can't carry this by myself. My dad was dead 2 weeks later because none of the caregiving plan shit was followed at all. He never got to hold my little baby who was born just a few months later. And the doctors, it was real clear that he probably could have held out that long. And every time I see this just adorable little baby, who's now an adorable little big brother, I know that Mom didn't love us enough to stick around to see a baby, and that my brother didn't follow the instructions enough to make sure that my dad would eat it. We all got this kind of trick bag shit, and yet so far most of the things I've heard today have been about the laughter in here. That we can do more than survive is a really, really big deal to me. When I look at acceptance, I think in terms of something that is only a small fraction of what forgiveness is about. Resentment is in that triangle of self-obsession, and the other side of it is acceptance. To me, forgiveness is like acceptance on steroids. Every time I can't find something in the index of one of our literature, I think about what its opposite is. And to me, when I think of the opposite of forgiveness, I think about resentment, first thing. But when I look at the need for forgiveness, I really think more about the isolation. Forgiveness, the lack of forgiveness, it really is survival mode. Don't give me something justifiable to be an asshole about. It's really, really easy for me to see when, this habit we got of getting out of bed, picking something to be right about, and then being a dick to everybody. It's such a big, hard damn thing to pick something right about, to be, it's there's so much wrong with this world that's easy to do. It's a lot harder when it ain't so random. It's a lot harder when I can say, aha, and I got justification to be angry. And I've got personal pain. To me, that word there, the hurt. That for me is the big difference between the need for acceptance and the need for forgiveness is the hurt. If Mom had been more, I can't say more of a bitch, because she was plenty of a bitch. But if she had been less wonderful and just a bitch, it would be so easy to just say fuck her. It's the fact that she was so wonderful that hurts so goddamn much, and makes grieving so scary, and makes forgiveness seem so unfair. And that's where I fuck myself up. I got people who want to be a part of my life
that hurt me every time, no matter what skills I learned to protect myself, no matter what approach I try, no matter what boundaries, no matter what distance I have. And I am mad at them, but I'm really mad at myself for having not found that solution to my codependency, that solution to my just being a fucking human being, that failure to protect. The first time I ever heard failure to protect was actually another one of these hardcore motherfuckers. He was all about you owe it to society to kill yourself if you're going to relapse. And I lost a lot of friends in early recovery to shotguns. There are so many survivors in here, so much shit. And that's a fucking problem. That's my problem. I'm really good at surviving and getting stuck in survival mode. That's the need for forgiveness. It's having 3 years of my first child's life go by with me having 90% of my attention to what's going on in my head and in yesterday and in how things should have been. It's great that I have such an awesome family now, that I have a new family today, and that they're so healing for me. And it's great that there's things that give me a chance to believe in others. But it's important for me to recognize the need for believing in you, and the need for healing, and the need for gratitude lists. Just like it was really important for me to look at in step 2 for the need for a higher power. When I got into step 2, I know that forgiveness is like all over step 8, but man, there's like 7 steps that come before that. And to me the solution is so easy once you deal with those other 7 things that I don't even need to get into step 8. For me, the struggle was all about steps 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, regaining my innocence were easy in comparison to getting entirely ready to do that shit and laying a foundation of basics. I thought I had to do perfect faith, perfect turning my will and my life over, perfect acceptance, perfect forgiveness, and all of that shit is stuff that comes to me through imperfect, simple, just admitting that things are the way they are, whether I like it or fucking not. Step 1 has a big part of that to me. Just admit it. And step 2 for me was seeing how insane I was with everything I was doing to try and make sense of it all. That emphasis on the insanity in step 2 saved my ass. I don't remember who it was that first told me that if there's a God, he'll be probably pretty forgiving, and waiting for me at step 11. And I didn't need to develop an understanding of a higher power at step 2. We had already done that. Loving, caring, greater than myself, and able to restore my sanity. And that could be anything from, principles to, the group's, wisdom and experience, whatever. Whatever it is behind the shit that keeps us clean. I really looked at forgiveness as something I couldn't do because it was too fucking unfair. I have a right to be angry. I need to learn how to protect myself. Forgiveness, a lack of forgiveness is one of the things that helps me stay mad enough at you to keep you far enough away so you can't hurt me. I need that. Don't you understand? And I thought, at one time that was insane. But you know what? It's true. I do need my anger. And I do need fear. Hell, if it wasn't for fear, I'd have been hit by a car when I was 3. Every time my ball ran out in the street. It's just that mine is way distorted. I'm an animal. There's some shit that gets me living like a fucking animal real quick. And I thought that meant that there was no room for fear in our recovery. I thought that meant that there was no room for being angry and resentful. Resentment's some pretty good shit. It keeps me safe from you, but it locks me up inside myself with me. It's where I justify my isolation. And then that, I need forgiveness, not to be Mr. Nice Guy, but just to feel better in here, to live in my own skin. I knew, my dad even told me, I don't expect your brother to follow through on that promise. He's never been here for me before. He hasn't brought the children before your mom died. He hasn't brought the children since your mom died. He's not going to bring them. I made a lot of efforts through the years to try and help my mom. Everything from just trying to make recovery look good, in spite of my family treating like addicts like lepers, to helping with interventions when the family finally decided maybe David, wasn't wrong about all that stuff. Well, actually, they never admitted I was right about any of that shit. They just admitted that mom might be an addict. I was still, a pain in the ass for saying so. My goal in trying to get my mom help, my goal in being there for my dad was not to save my mom, and it was not to save my dad. It was just so I could look myself in the eye in the mirror. That's it. I tell you, I did not do everything I could do to save my mom. Nobody could do everything you could do. It would take 1,000 people to try everything that you can try with a junkie. That's why there's pretty much like all these programs about detachment. You gotta just look yourself in the eye in the mirror. Where I fucked up was I forgot that I needed to be able to look my brothers in the mirror too, or in the eye. And I need to forgive them, but I need to forgive myself for forgetting that I had this leftovers of my family that I didn't like and that I needed to be prepared for. It really distracts me from enjoying the kids. I can go a couple months at a time now without hearing from either of my brothers. But a day doesn't go by where I'm not having a conversation with them in my fucking head. While my kid's trying to show me something. One brother's got his own family. I don't hear from him much. Another one doesn't, and he's come he called to tell me he was going to come visit Mother's Day from California, and I told him that we weren't going to be available. He said that's when he's coming, and I'm all indignant. I tried being matter of fact back at you. How dare you be matter of fact back? What the fuck? Do I need to go back to Al-Anon again? God damn it. Maybe ACOA? Hear people bitch about having to take piano lessons? But as angry as I was scared. Because, you know, when I don't forgive, it's exhausting. It takes so fucking much energy to carry a resentment. He doesn't deserve forgiveness. He doesn't. Any more than anybody else does. But I deserve to not be so goddamn tired all the time. My kid deserves to have 3% of my attention instead of 1. So for me, I had to really, really look at the first 3 steps to pull off 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and 9 again. To me, like 8 and 9 is where you regain your innocence without being a gullible, easy to fuck over person again. I love steps 8 and 9. But to pull that off, you got to do a good 4, 5, 6, and 7. And to pull off 4, 5, 6, and 7, really take some really basic stuff first. If there's anything else that I need to remember from the shit that I just shared about, it's that whole thing about the need for forgiveness. I'm so distracted by my right to be angry that I forget about my right to live instead of just survive. And I need you guys. I need to call, I need to bitch, I need to hear people make really fucking inappropriate jokes about my pain. I'm wow, I was just thinking earlier, like it was shared earlier about, I wonder if this is appropriate. And then I don't think, the next thing that was shared wasn't all that inappropriate, so I'm thinking that the inappropriate thing probably didn't come out. And I'm thinking of a whole bunch of inappropriate shit about what it was like caregiving for somebody dying with cancer, about what it was like, having my parents leave their house to a partnership instead of just selling the damn thing and splitting up the money. About what it was like handling liquid morphine. About diapers. All kinds of stuff. But I think it's probably a good time to open this up instead. All right. That's all I got.
Thanks, Jerry.
Okay, thanks to both our speakers. Before opening the floor for sharing, remember that you were being taken. Oh, maybe I was supposed to read that. We have some time for sharing now. If anybody has some after comments.
Hello, family. My name is Robert. I'm Nat. There's a lot I can think about when it comes to forgiveness. But to the new member, welcome. You are the most important person at this meeting today. I can remember when I first came in the rooms from treatment, afraid to live, afraid that I didn't fit in the rooms, because I thought I had done way more harm than any of y'all had done to ourselves. Because I shot drugs, and of course I smoked crack, but the heroin addiction, it left scars that I got to always live with. And so of course I looked at myself in the mirror after treatment. I was like, wow, I thought I was really in bad shape and nobody really wanted to have anything to do with me. But y'all made me, prove me different. And that's the reason why I'm here today. when I think about forgiveness today, I'm still making mistakes. Fun mistakes, expensive mistakes. You know what I'm saying? And you can't equate recovery with some of the mistakes you're gonna make. You can't say my recovery, I shouldn't be making them, because you have your head in a dirt pile somewhere. And when I think about forgiveness, the program, living the program, gives you a way out. Because just this year, I've made some not real good decisions. You know what I'm saying? That's cost me money. And you know, it started out small and ended up large. And I had to get hospitalized. And after getting hospitalized, I got a pretty envelope in the mail say you owe us money. You know, so it's things like that. It's like, wow. So we was discussing that coming up here. I say this just to remind a new member that it's the saying in the fellowship that an addict alone can be in bad company. And with a lot of years in the program, I still need to be watched. You know what I mean? I really do. Because it's something about us, Mark, that always seem to make us believe we need just a little bit more. I don't give a damn what it is. You know, it can say take this much, and we'll say, well, I'm gonna ask, need a little more. You know. I'm grateful. Let me share this. When I think about forgiveness, he was talking about parents. I live in the same home that my parents and I lived in. I always got to be reminded of forgiveness, because I would have never thought I would have got the courage after not knowing that I was going to be clean, but getting clean and knowing that I could get the courage through the prayer to say that I'm part responsible for my parents not being here. That ain't easy, man, but it's real, because I wore my parents out with this monster of addiction. And I'm not thrilled to say that, but I have to free me. And I know that I would not be standing up here right now if it wasn't for this program. I don't like that mic. I feel like I'm on a talk show or something. You know, those are the things that I have to constantly remind myself to forgive Robert W. for, so I can feel better in my own spirit. And mind you, I need to share this too this evening, that I brought some sponsees up. See, January the 18th, I celebrated 20 years in Narcotics Anonymous. And it's been a good ride. But what I'm having fun doing today is giving these guys that we call sponsees an opportunity to give back what's been awesomely freely given to me. And you know, what they showing me is that I can just be me and give them what I got. I don't have to try to be somebody I'm not. And I'm loving that, man. I'm finding out that it took a lot of years for me to know how important you people are. And me myself getting out the way. I got a sponsee over there that I'm gonna say this in front of him and in behalf of him, that this is my oldest sponsee. And just last week, he celebrated 19 years, right? And that's Brother Walter over there. And I need to say this because, like I told him, it was easy for me to forgive myself. But when he called me at my home group last Sunday, his home group too, I was supposed to be there to present him. Do you know? I wasn't there. I was at home. When he called me and said, "Are you coming?" I said, yeah, I'll be right there. But guess what? I wasn't there on time. And I had plumb forgot about it. And I just want to tell you again how much I love you, but not only that, ask for your forgiveness. Because I've been there every year up until this past year. That let me know one thing, that we human. And we're going to fall short. She just read it earlier, right? So let me share this too, that I'm going to make some more mistakes. I hope they be costly mistakes. You know what I'm saying, Mark? I'm having a blast up here because, of course, every year I come up here, if I can come up here, I'm going to always try to bring, if God makes it a way, to bring somebody new. I brought 3 new sponsees up here this year. And, man, they giving me a ride, man. I'm having a ride just watching them. Because they don't know what to do with themselves. They don't know what they're supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? And I remember, unfortunately, we might not get a chance to go to the tree. But there's some people who ain't seen the tree yet, right? And we're finna try to make a way to get down that tree. If I gotta send in a helicopter or something, get them over there to the tree. I just want to tell y'all how much I'm enjoying myself again. And I need to thank God, as I understand God right now, for just giving us, because the world is crazy out there. And if you made it to Camp Mac, you need to just take a moment to give God, if you'll understand, the praise. Because if it wasn't for God, none of us would be here. And for that, I'm grateful. Thank you.
All right, that's all the time we have for sharing. Can somebody please come up and read the Just for Today card?
Hey,
That's what 19 looks like.
just for today. Tell yourself, just for today, my thoughts will be on my recovery, living and enjoying life without the use of drugs. Just for today. I will have faith in someone in who believes in me and wants to help me in my recovery. Just for today. I will have a program I will try to follow to the best of my ability. Just for today. Through NA, I will try to get a better perspective on my life. Just for today. I will be unafraid. My thoughts will be on my new associations, people who are not using and have found a new way of life. So long as I follow that way, I have.
All right, thank you. We have a great way of closing, if for those that would like to join us.
Oh, we do this little dance together. Like that. No.
We have a moment of silence for the addicts who suffer inside and outside the circle, followed by the reversion of the serenity prayer. God, grant us the serenity
to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today.
Hey, lady.
Yeah. My jacket's outside, it's getting wet. It is raining? I think it is.
I know, I'm angry.
Hi, thanks for sharing. My name's Kitty. Nice to meet you.
Nancy, thank you so much.
My name's Kitty. Kitty, I was
Hey, I like pink too.
I'm gonna try my damnedest to So you working out? I'm just kidding.
I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it.
Well, I'll check with you later.
Honey, I'm scared. Fun? Oh my God. I love it. It's great. I'm not leaving if it's raining.
What's going on?
Looks like somebody burnt.
Yeah, it does.